I practiced leaving my husband for months before I actually did it. Not the conversation, the fantasy. The version of my life that existed on the other side of the decision. I imagined dramatic arguments, tearful phone calls, friends trying to convince me to stay, family members demanding explanations. I imagined Noah standing in the driveway as I loaded my car, maybe angry, maybe devastated, maybe begging, but definitely there. In every version of the future I imagined, somebody chased me, somebody fought for me, somebody made me feel important enough to stop. What never occurred to me was the possibility that nobody would. The day I left started quietly. Too quietly. Noah was making coffee when I came downstairs. I had barely slept. My suitcase sat near the front door. The sight of it should have felt dramatic. Instead, it looked strangely ordinary, like luggage waiting for a vacation. Noah glanced at it, then at me, then back to his coffee. Nothing else. No reaction, no questions, no visible emotion. I remember feeling irritated, which sounds ridiculous now. But I was. Because after everything I'd put him through, after months of distance and dishonesty, I wanted some kind of response. Instead, I got silence. Finally, I spoke. "I'm leaving." Noah nodded. "Okay." Just okay. The same word he'd been using for months. The same word that somehow managed to communicate absolutely nothing. I waited. He didn't continue. "That's it?" Noah looked confused. "What else would you like me to say?" The question annoyed me, because I didn't have an answer. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I just wanted proof that my decision mattered. Proof that I mattered. Instead, Noah took a sip of coffee and asked if I wanted breakfast. Breakfast. As if I wasn't dismantling 10 years of marriage. As if I wasn't walking out the door. As if none of this was important. I declined. He nodded again, then went back to reading something on his tablet. The entire interaction lasted less than 2 minutes. I loaded my bags into the car. Noah never came outside. I started the engine. Noah never appeared at the window. I backed out of the driveway. Noah never called. As I drove away, I kept checking my mirrors, waiting, expecting, looking for something. Nothing came. No text. No phone call. No desperate attempt to stop me. Nothing. At first, I convinced myself it was temporary. Shock, I thought. He's in shock. Eventually, reality will hit him. Eventually, he'll realize what happened. Eventually, he'll come after me. That evening, I checked my phone every few minutes. Nothing. The next morning, nothing. A week later, still nothing. Ryan tried to reassure me. He told me Noah was probably processing everything. Probably struggling privately. Probably hurting more than he let on. I wanted to believe him. The alternative felt much worse. Because if Noah wasn't struggling, what did that say about me? The first month passed quickly. Ryan and I settled into our new routine. And almost immediately, things felt different. Not bad, just different. The excitement that had fueled the relationship for over a year started fading. Not disappearing, just changing. The stolen moments were gone. The secrecy was gone. The adrenaline was gone. Now there were groceries, bills, laundry, schedules, reality. The relationship survived, but the fantasy didn't. Meanwhile, Noah remained completely absent. No angry messages, no late-night phone calls, no attempts to reconnect. Nothing. Friends occasionally mentioned him. Every update sounded the same. He's doing okay. He's keeping busy. He's spending time with family. He's traveling more. He's trying new things. The reports irritated me. I wanted evidence that he'd fallen apart. I wanted proof that my absence created a hole in his life. Instead, every update suggested the opposite. 6 months later, I ran into one of Noah's friends at a restaurant. We made awkward small talk. Then he smiled. You know, Noah seems happier lately. The words hit me harder than they should have. Happier. Not recovering. Not surviving. Happier. I smiled politely, then spent the entire drive home thinking about that sentence. The relationship with Ryan ended 8 months after I left. No huge fight. No betrayal. No dramatic event. We simply discovered that wanting someone's life and wanting someone are not always the same thing. When the relationship finally ended, I sat alone in my apartment staring at a blank wall. For the first time in years, there was no distraction. No affair. No excitement. No fantasy. Just silence. And inside that silence was a question I had spent years avoiding. What if leaving hadn't solved anything? A year after the divorce, I finally got my answer. I saw Noah by accident. A Saturday afternoon, a bookstore downtown. I almost didn't recognize him. Not because he looked different, because he looked lighter, relaxed, comfortable, like someone carrying half the weight he used to. He noticed me immediately, smiled, walked over. The conversation was pleasant, friendly, normal, which somehow made it worse. Because there was no bitterness, no resentment, no sadness, just distance. The kind that develops when someone genuinely moves on. Eventually, I asked the question that had haunted me since the day I left. Why didn't you come after me? Noah looked surprised, then thoughtful. He considered the question carefully. I almost did. My heart jumped. For one brief second, I felt relief. Validation. Proof that I had mattered. Then he continued. The first week. I waited. Noah smiled faintly. I sat with my phone a dozen times. The words hurt, not because of what they meant, because of what came next. But every time I picked it up, I realized I wasn't calling because I thought we could fix things. I said nothing. I was calling because I was afraid. The bookstore suddenly felt very quiet. Noah looked down for a moment, then back at me. And fear isn't a good reason to ask someone to stay. Neither of us spoke. After a moment, he continued. I wanted someone who wanted to be with me. Simple words, nothing dramatic, nothing cruel. Yet they landed harder than any insult ever could, because they were true. I had wanted Noah to fight, wanted him to chase me, wanted him to prove my value. But I had never stopped to ask what that would cost him, or whether he deserved better. Eventually, our conversation ended. We wished each other well, then went our separate ways. I stood outside the bookstore watching him disappear into the crowd, and for the first time, I understood something. The reason nobody followed me wasn't because nobody cared. It wasn't because I was easy to replace. It wasn't because I never mattered. The reason nobody followed me was because the people who truly love you eventually reach a point where they stop trying to convince you to stay. Not because they stop loving you, because they finally start loving themselves too. And the hardest realization of my life was understanding that Noah's silence wasn't weakness. It was acceptance. He wasn't standing in the driveway because he had already spent years standing there emotionally, waiting, hoping, trying. By the time I drove away, he wasn't giving up. He was simply finished carrying a marriage by himself. And when I looked back at my empty rearview mirror that day, I thought nobody was following me. What I didn't realize was that the person I expected to chase me had already let go long before I left. I never thought my life could unravel so completely in such a short span of time. And yet, here I am, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at the walls, trying to figure out how I became the villain in my own life. The worst part is, I know exactly how it happened, and I can't escape the truth. I got pregnant while cheating on my husband, and I wasn't sure who the father was. I tried to hide it. I lied. I thought I could control it all. But control, it turns out, was the one thing I never had. Mark and I had been married for 5 years. On paper, our life looked perfect. We had a beautiful apartment, a solid routine, mutual friends, and we were finally at a point in our careers where stability wasn't just a dream. He was kind, dependable, patient to a fault. He loved me with a quiet intensity that made me feel safe, loved, cherished. And yet, somehow that wasn't enough for me. It started subtly, the way most mistakes do. A lingering glance at a coworker, lingering too long in conversations that should have stayed professional. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, that this was harmless flirting, a little excitement in an otherwise predictable life. But the truth is, I craved validation in ways Mark's steady, reliable love couldn't provide. And before I knew it, the flirtation became lunch dates. Lunch dates became drinks after work, and drinks after work became nights in his apartment that I justified to myself in every possible way. I never thought it would lead to a pregnancy. I wasn't careless, or at least I tried not to be. But life has a cruel way of teaching lessons in the harshest ways possible. One morning, a week after what should have been my period, I noticed the telltale signs: nausea, fatigue, and that weird tingling in my chest that made me feel dizzy and elated at the same time. I bought a test, sat in my bathroom staring at the stick, and watched as the 2 lines appeared, confirming my worst fears and my wildest excitement all at once. I was pregnant. I should have been overjoyed, or at least scared in a rational way. But instead, I was paralyzed. Because the truth was, I had no idea if Mark was the father. I tried to tell myself it was probably him. I wanted it to be him. But the nagging suspicion that it could be Derek, the man I had been seeing for months, clung to my thoughts like a shadow I couldn't shake. And suddenly, the excitement of being pregnant was replaced by a terror I had never known. I debated what to do for days. I considered telling Mark immediately. I thought about telling him everything. The affair, the uncertainty, my guilt. But every time I imagined his face, his hands trembling, his eyes wide in disbelief and hurt, I froze. I couldn't do it. I couldn't crush him like that. So instead, I told a half-truth. I said I was pregnant and assumed he was the father. I hid the affair, buried it so deep that even I had to remind myself not to think about it. At first, Mark was overjoyed. He cried, held my hands, kissed my stomach, and whispered about all the things he wanted to teach our child. He immediately started planning: baby names, nursery colors, weekend shopping trips for tiny clothes. Every day he came home from work beaming, talking about parenting books he'd been reading, making me feel guilty for even considering my secret. And the lie spiraled. I kept track of my doctor visits, made up appointments, pretended to experience cravings and morning sickness, and even faked ultrasound stories. Mark was so invested, so trusting, so in love. And with each passing day, I felt the walls closing in. The thrill of keeping my secret was gone. It had been replaced by crushing anxiety, guilt, and fear. Fear that if the truth came out, I would lose everything. My marriage, my reputation, my family, my sanity. As the weeks turned into months, the pregnancy began to show and the panic escalated. I was careful, but even the smallest slip-up, a lingering comment, a missed detail, made me heart pound. I knew I was skating on thin ice, but I had no idea how fragile everything really was until Mark began talking about names, nursery setups, and parenting classes in ways that made my chest ache with guilt. Then came the day when my entire world came crashing down. Mark had started asking more questions, the kind of questions I couldn't lie about. Did you feel the baby kick? When is your next appointment? What did the doctor say about the heartbeat? Each one felt like a trap. I tried to answer without hesitation, without leaving any gaps. But he was sharp, perceptive, and patient in a way that terrified me. He never accused me outright. At least, not at first. He just observed, noted, and waited. One night, a month before my due date, he came home from work early. He walked into the apartment with a quiet intensity I hadn't seen in years. I was sitting on the couch, absently scrolling on my phone, pretending everything was normal. But Mark doesn't miss much. He sat beside me, took my hand, and looked at me in a way that made my heart stop. "Sarah," he said quietly, "we need to talk." I froze, my throat closing. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head, but never like this. Never knowing that he already knew. "I know," he continued, his voice low but steady. "I know about Derek. I know everything." I felt my stomach drop, my chest tighten, my vision blur. "Mark, you're pregnant," he said, cutting me off. "And you don't know who the father is." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. The words I had kept buried for months spilled out in a rush of sobs, confessions, and shame. I admitted everything. The affair, the lies, the fake doctor appointments, my panic, my fear. I cried and cried while he listened, his expression unreadable, his jaw tight. "You lied to me," he said finally, voice shaking but controlled. "You made me believe something that wasn't real. You made me imagine a future that you were already destroying. You've betrayed me, our family, and yourself." I wanted to vanish. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. But it didn't. I was forced to sit there, confronted by the reality I had created. The next days were a blur. Mark told both our families. My parents were horrified, his family devastated, friends disappeared. The apartment, which had felt like a refuge, became a cage of judgment and isolation. Mark moved out, filing for separation immediately. He took control of the pregnancy decision, insisting on knowing the truth, wanting paternity testing once the baby was born. I was left alone, racked with guilt, watching the life I had been planning dissolve before me. Months passed. The baby was born. Healthy, beautiful, a mix of features that only made me question further who the father really was. Mark, with his quiet dignity, took the lead. He demanded paternity testing, and when it came back, his child, his genes, he breathed a sigh of relief, but there was no forgiveness. He still left. He still walked away. And here's the cruelest part. He's happier now. He moved into a new apartment, dating again, thriving professionally, spending time with our child in a way I can't. Pictures surfaced online. Him smiling, laughing, bonding with the baby, free from the chaos I had caused. Every image is a knife in my chest. I am alone, staring at empty rooms, counting the mistakes that led me here. I think about what I could have done differently. Told the truth, ended the affair, trusted my husband. But it's too late. Every lie I told, every stolen night, every rationalization has become cement in the wall separating me from the life I thought I had. I am the cautionary tale. The woman who almost had it all, who risked everything for a fleeting thrill, and paid the ultimate price. I am the one left in regret, staring at the life that continues without me, wishing I could turn back time, knowing I never will. This will probably be the most honest thing I've said in over a year. I don't expect sympathy. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness or to paint myself as a victim. I just need to let it out somewhere because the weight of what I've done is slowly crushing me. My name doesn't matter. Let's just say I'm a 39-year-old woman who destroyed her family. I cheated on my husband. I lost everything. And I deserve it. I used to think I had a pretty normal life. Married at 24 to a man who truly loved me. He was the safe choice, steady, responsible, kind. We had our daughter, Emily, a year later. She's 17 now. She's beautiful, smart, sharp-tongued like her dad, and just good. She's always been good. For years, I played the part I was supposed to. Wife, mom, career woman. I worked in marketing, moved up slowly, and eventually landed a job at a regional firm with a demanding but brilliant boss named Mark. He was 10 years older, Charming, confident, driven. He reminded me of the life I never explored, the one I put on a shelf when I married early. It didn't start as an affair. Not at first. It started with coffee breaks that went a little too long, laughing at each other's jokes, confiding about stress, venting about spouses. I felt seen again, wanted, not as a mom or a wife or someone who made dinner and folded laundry. Just me. And I let it happen. The first time we kissed was after a company dinner. The hotel elevator doors closed and I didn't stop him. I didn't say no. That kiss led to a room. That room led to 3 more business trips. And before I could really think through what I was doing, I was living 2 lives. I still came home every night. I still kissed my husband on the cheek. Still asked Emily about school and helped her with college applications. But I was lying with every breath I took. I justified it. Told myself I was unfulfilled. That my husband didn't look at me like he used to. That the excitement with Mark was something I deserved after years of sacrificing myself for others. But all of that was just selfishness wrapped in excuses. It was Emily who found out. God, that part still makes my chest cave in every time I think about it. She borrowed my iPad one afternoon to do homework when her laptop died. I forgot I'd left my email open. Mark and I had been careless. There were messages. Suggestive, explicit, and worst of all, emotional. Things you should never say to someone who isn't your spouse. Emily saw them. She read everything. She didn't scream. She didn't confront me. She went straight to her dad. That night was quiet. Too quiet. My husband didn't say a word during dinner. Emily wouldn't look me in the eye. I knew something was wrong, but I had no idea the bomb had already detonated behind my back. After Emily went upstairs, he asked me if I was having an affair. I didn't even lie. I couldn't. The way he looked at me, like he didn't even recognize who I was, broke something in me. I nodded. I remember saying yes like it was someone else's voice. His face didn't change. He just stood up, walked into the garage, and sat there for over an hour. He filed for divorce 2 weeks later. He moved out, took the guest room furniture, and stayed at a friend's place until he found a small apartment. He didn't yell, didn't insult me. He just left. Quietly, painfully, like a man who'd had the wind ripped out of him. Emily didn't talk to me for days. Then she did. She screamed. She called me every name you can think of. Told me I'd ruined her life, that I'd broken Dad, that I was disgusting. I tried to explain, to tell her I never meant for things to go this far. But what do you say? What words make up for betraying your family? But after the initial explosion, something strange happened. She stayed. She didn't move in with her dad. She said she didn't want to hurt either of us more than we were already hurting. She tried to live in both worlds. And at first, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could salvage something. I leaned on her in ways I shouldn't have. I let her become my emotional crutch. She was the only one still speaking to me, and I clung to that. I cried on her shoulder when I should have been protecting her. I let her comfort me even though I was the one who had wrecked everything. She told me she forgave me, that people make mistakes, that she didn't want to lose her mom too. I thought that meant I still had her. I was wrong. She started spending more time at her dad's place. At first, it was just weekends, then a few weeknights, then almost full-time. She said it was quieter there, that it helped her focus on school. I didn't argue. Then she stopped responding to my texts right away, started calling me Lori instead of Mom when she was angry. Her tone changed, colder, measured. It took me months to realize what was happening. She was outgrowing me, or maybe just out-healing me. My ex-husband, for all his pain, started to rebuild. He got in shape, started going on hikes, joined a local cooking class, got back into photography. He started laughing again. I saw pictures on social media, Him and Emily smiling together, camping, cooking meals side by side. At first, it felt like betrayal, but deep down, I knew it was relief. She was healing. With him. Without me. I still see her, of course. We meet for lunch. She texts me on holidays. But it's not the same. I'm her mother by blood, but not by heart anymore. That spot belongs to the version of me I killed when I chose an affair over my family. Mark? He moved on. Quickly. He was never going to leave his wife. He never said it, but it was clear once the divorce papers were filed and he started pulling away. I was a distraction. An escape. A midlife crisis in a pencil skirt. The moment things got complicated, he was gone. I was alone. No husband, no lover, half a daughter. I moved into a smaller apartment, sold off half the furniture, got a cat, went back to therapy. I'm trying every day to pick up the pieces of the woman I used to be. The woman who once had a good life and threw it away for a few stolen moments. But I'll never get that life back. It's not the loneliness, or even the guilt. It's the quiet moments. Like walking past my daughter's room and knowing she doesn't live here anymore. Like grocery shopping for one. Like seeing my ex smile in photos I'm no longer invited to be in. It's watching the two people I hurt the most grow happier in the life I shattered, and realizing I have no place in it. Emily is going off to college soon. She's chosen a school near her dad. She said it's because of the program, but I know it's more than that. I'm happy for her. I really am. But it stings in ways I can't put into words. I broke something that can't be fixed. Don't. I know that sounds simplistic, but I've lived both sides now. The one where you think you found excitement again. That rush of being wanted. And the one where you're sitting alone in your car, crying because your daughter won't text you back. Cheating doesn't just break trust. It breaks people. It rewrites the story your loved ones thought they were living. It makes them question everything. It doesn't just burn the house down. It scorches the ground it stood on so nothing good can grow again for a long, long time. If you're unhappy, talk. If you're lost, ask for help. If you're numb, fight to feel again. But don't lie. Don't betray. Don't be like me. Because even if someone forgives you, they'll never forget. And neither will you.